Hey everybody, Matt LaPlante here again. Got another video for you. This is going to be another one in the coronavirus series. If you've been following me on social media, I've been trying to be more active in what I thought was going to happen, and as we saw things occur and play out, I really didn't have as much time to put out videos, so I was trying to put out as much information there as I possibly could, and thankfully a lot of it ended up being correct thus far. But with that being said, what I want to go over in this video is more about where I see us going from this point of a closed economy, and you know, and in turn what I perceive to happen with the stock market in tow, going forward from that point. So I would say the most important thing that I want to focus on right now is that what we have seen up until this point, really over the past month or so, is that our economy and the virus, the coronavirus, have been intertwined. Whatever was happening with the coronavirus, that would cause the market to go up or down. And so what we're seeing though, and this really happened, we saw the stock market bottom it was right around March 23rd. And so if you're following me on social media, I had mentioned this, that we're going to see the market start to come back before we see the economic numbers start to look positive, because the stock market is always looking forward and pricing that information into today. So that's part of the reason why. So as we saw economies start to separate from the coronavirus, or our economy and really the global economy, we saw the stock market start to rise, and you know, we're not back up to the all-time highs, but we've definitely come significantly off the bottom. And so really what we're seeing is the decoupling of the virus and our economy. And so I guess the next phase of this is it's less important what's going on with the virus and more important about what's really happening in our economy. So one of the big headline news points that gets brought up a lot, and I've even talked about this a lot, is unemployment. And normally unemployment is a very good indicator of how an economy is doing. But right now, because we've done some things that have really never been done before, this really is unprecedented actions were taken by our government and governments around the world to attempt to combat the virus. And let me take a step back though. It's important also to note, when people compare what we're experiencing to 2008 and the Great Financial Crisis, that's probably a poor description. And I'm going to explain to you why using a bit of an analogy. So for those of you, I'm not a big NASCAR or Formula One fan, but I believe that this will fit. So if you ever see NASCAR, I think it happens more in NASCAR more than Formula One, I believe, but in NASCAR, there'll be a car that's driving and it loses control or something, hits the others, and just sends all these other cars and causes problems for all the other cars that are in its wake, and even the ones that are coming behind it that sometimes will hit it. That's more like what happened in 2008. You had some major companies, Lehman Brothers, Merrill Lynch, Citigroup. You had some municipalities, both on the West Coast and East Coast, that really struggled. So those cars crashed and collided into others, and that's what caused the Great Financial Crisis. Was really all the explosion that hit the other areas, and that kind of pulled everything down. That's not really what we're seeing in this instance, or we haven't seen that yet. What we've really seen is more like we decided, when I say we, I mean our country, a majority of the states and a lot of the countries around the world decided there may be a wreck in the future due to loss of life because of the coronavirus. So let's just, rather than have the accident, let's just pull off and just park the car on the side of the road. So we've basically just decided we're going to take our car that we were driving, and the American economy was very strong, looking very well prior to this decision to pull off the road. We've essentially pulled off and thrown the keys out the window. So the danger of doing that, and this is kind of the discussion that a lot of people are having in our government, is the car can sit there for a certain amount of time before it no longer is able to run, or I shouldn't say it's no longer able to run, it's much more difficult to get it started, much more difficult to get it going. So we kind of made a pit stop there. And so what people are debating between is, when is the right time that we need to start the car? And we're seeing some states individually start the car. And I don't really want to discuss whether or not that's the right or the wrong decision from a life or death situation, or what that really means from that perspective. I just want to discuss really from an economic standpoint of what that would mean, assuming that we don't have, again, millions of people die, which is not what we've seen. We haven't really seen it anywhere. So I'm just going to assume that doesn't happen. So we want to see the car get started again. And what we're currently seeing, in order to get that car started again, we have to have the people to drive it. That's unemployment. Our unemployment rate is higher than maybe it's, well, not ever, because I think it was actually technically higher during the Great Depression. So, but you're splitting hairs here at that point, but it doesn't really matter. But the point that I want to make is, while unemployment is typically a very good indicator of what's going to happen in the economy, it may not be in this instance, and I'm going to go over why that is the case. So for starters, the average household in America makes right around $80,000 to $90,000 a year. So that's, and about 60% of U.S. households have both parents, both adults, both parents working. So that average is right around $40,000 to $50,000 a year is what both parents are earning to provide the income for their household. Now, the part that makes me question how severe this unemployment is going to be is this, or one of the factors. One, we did get a little most people got, I would say, got a stimulus check that were made under about 150,000. I think it was something like that. Got under 150. They got some sort of stimulus check of, I think the average is probably $3,400, because that's like two parents and then two children. I think that's the standard household or average household. But so they got that, which equates to roughly 1 month of income for one of the parents. But more importantly, the unemployment, the actual unemployment checks that people are getting. That's what one of the parts I want to focus on, is that on average, people would normally get about $300 per week from unemployment. But now, because the federal government is adding $600 on top of that, you end up with, it's something around the income range of about 45, 47, somewhere in there. I think it's just under $47,000 a year in income is what that's equivalent to. So that's approximately what people would be earning had they continued to work. And so that's one of the big question marks for me, is that if people are still earning this money even though they're not working, what does that mean about our unemployment rate? How much of a factor is that currently if they're still earning that money? Because again, remember back to the train station analogy. I have a video on that, so feel free to go ahead and watch that. But in the train station analogy, we have money that's coming into the cash bucket, and it's in the economy, it's there, it's just waiting to be deployed. And we can actually see this in the savings rate. What's something that may surprise you is we've actually seen the savings rate go up. So people are saving more money. In fact, it's the highest rate we've seen it's something like, I think it's almost 30 years, or it is about 30 years, that we've seen. So people are saving significantly more money right now, which I would say is a good thing. We're seeing more people just hold on to their money. Now, at some point, as the train station analogy continues, that money is going to go somewhere. It's going to flow. People are going to be buying more things. The things that we're seeing people buying right now is again, it's more the things that you just buy in a when you're more panicked or concerned about whether or not how things are going to be in the future. But as that changes, that's going to be the question of what happens to that money. And it's not just the unemployment money and the stimulus checks. We've also seen the Payment Protection Program, the PPP, that money went out. We also saw the Federal Reserve lowering interest rates. These are all things that or some of these things I discussed in the prior video in part 2. But we're seeing a ton of money get pushed into our economy. In fact, all the numbers haven't been tallied yet, but it looks like it's going to eclipse the amount of money that we spent on the Afghanistan and Iraq war really over a 20-year period. We're going to put more money into the U.S. economy in a little over a month's time than we did in 20 years in the wars that we spent on Iraq and Afghanistan. That is an unreal amount of money. I'm shocked at how much money we're putting into that. And so what I'm suggesting is that by pushing all that money in, we're basically saving more of it, waiting to get back to work. That could pose a very good run for our economy once states start opening back up. And as they start opening back up and the economic numbers get better, I do believe that you'll see the stock market continue to perform well because, again, the stock market's looking in the future. So as it sees any little glimmers of positivity from an economic standpoint, that is going to be you see consumption go up. You see people doing more of the normal things that they typically would do. You're going to see the stock market probably react prior to all of that data happening. In fact, I would not put out a real possibility that we see the unemployment numbers still at relatively high amounts and the stock market is running up because it sees that coming down and it sees people spending more money. Again, the train station analogy hasn't changed. The money is there. It's in our economy. It just has to be deployed. So I see that as potentially very stimulative. The question is going to be, how quickly can we get the car back and running? How quickly are the states going to open up and start this going? That's going to be the main push. And based on what I'm seeing, unless we see a huge surge and we see a recoupling of the virus and the economy, we will likely see the stock market go up prior to a lot of the good information happening. So I would say be very careful being bearish right now or thinking, hey, maybe I should sell out because the signs right now are pointing to potential positive outcomes that we will see in both the virus and our economy. So now the things that could derail this would be if we see deaths pick up and if we see people not unwilling to go back to work where they can't get people to come back because they're getting paid too much. I don't believe we will see some of that. We've already seen some of that, a little bit of that, but I don't believe that's going to be a major issue because there's an end date for our unemployment. That extra $600, the amount of money that they get, basically because our government said, we told you to stay home, we're going to pay you to do that. That runs out it's right around July and August. So approximately when that occurs, people are going to have to make a choice. And I believe that people make the choice too. I'm going to need to feed my family and take care of the things that I want to sustain my lifestyle. So I'm optimistic in that. I should say I'm cautiously optimistic. And I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the debt. The amount of money that we're pushing into our economy does come at a cost, and we may have to deal with that in the future, but I don't think it's in the very near term. It could be an issue going forward in the next 12, 18, 36 months kind of thing, 1 to 3 years. That could be an issue that we need to solve, because we really have pushed so much money into our economy. It could cause problems from a government budgeting perspective. But I'll save that for another day. But keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on how we see states opening up, because as we see those open up, and then as a week or two follows, economies start doing better. We see those unemployment numbers start coming down. You start seeing some of that. I think we're going to see some good things in the stock market. And as that extra income that some people has been pushed into our economy, we'll call it the income of the economy, gets deployed, it could be very, very stimulative, not just to our economy, but also the stock market. So I'll see you guys next time.